continuing talk about a hung parliament. We're clearly getting an unofficial campaign, let's be honest, but the deals are already on the table from the minor parties. The Greens want $10 billion to make government schools absolutely, completely free and to give kids in public schools free supplies at the start of each year. The Teals, well, they want a number of things. Today they say they want truth in advertising laws. This will be the return James Ashby of misinformation and disinformation. The Greens also say that if Albanese is re-elected, they want a seat in his cabinet.
Well, typically when you are in the cabinet, not to go against the government, which I'd find extraordinary if the Greens didn't have their say in that scenario and cause upheaval for a Labor government, a second-term one. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. What we are seeing is a deterioration of the two major parties' votes. We know that from the last election, they only got into government with less than 33% of the primary. I think that'll be eroded even further. A lot of those people are looking for a safe place to put their vote, particularly Labor voters, I might just add. We saw in the Queensland election here, a lot of people abandoned Labor. They put their vote with One Nation, and in seats like mine here in Keppel, where I wasn't successful, despite getting 25% of the primary vote, 89% of my vote went to the LNP. Why did that happen? Because we told people very carefully from the beginning, we do not support another term of Labor. In fact, we put them and the Greens last on our ballot papers, and we made that specifically clear to every voter. I hope that the messaging's very clear from other Conservative minor parties and the Coalition for that matter. There is no point in the Coalition speaking tough if all they're going to do is preference the Greens over Labor and give them more power in a minority government. So we've got to be very clear here, very strong, decisive language, as we've seen in the American election. That's what drove Trump to such an enormous success. He was decisive, he was clear, and we want the same thing out of politicians here. If you love Trump, you should love One Nation at this election, because we'll hold whichever party gets elected accountable if we hold the balance of power. Stuff the Greens. Don't give them that opportunity to hold a gun to the head of whoever makes government later this year.
Well, let's just stay with the polls and the election chances of the major parties. I picked up this series of graphs. I think they're very fascinating. I'm going to show you these tonight. Have a look on your screen. These are the 15-month trends. Now, some diabolical numbers there for Labor. You can see, obviously, they're the red line. The Libs, the Coalition, are the blue line. You can see that there is major primary voting intentions. We've got other graphs. We'll put them up. Keep them going, team in Sydney. That's regression, 2PP voting intention. That's where Labor's falling away very, very sharply. We've got their Coalition 2PP voting intention. This is where people say they're going to put their vote. This is beyond primary. This is a mixed bag of voters. And this is an aggregate of all the big polls. And there you go, preferred Prime Minister. Look at that gap. And we saw, obviously, in that Freshwater poll this week, Peter Dutton has surpassed the Prime Minister in terms of preferred PM. James, I could read a poll. You can read a poll. Can Labor recover?
Well, look, I think they can, but looking at all these graphs, Peter, I'm kind of reminded of, I want to paraphrase Ernest Hemingway, and, you know, how did you lose the election? Well, slowly and then all at once. If I was Anthony Albanese, I'd want to be calling this election sooner rather than later, because the trends are not in his favour, and he wants to get out there sooner rather than later, so before Peter Dutton's policies are out there and fully cooked, so that he can tear down as many as he can. But he's going to have to run a very negative campaign against Peter Dutton, because the only other thing he's got at the moment is more growth in the public sector and more throwing cash around. And I'm not sure in this economic environment that people are really going to buy that.
Well, we saw what personal negativity did for Donald Trump. I suspect Peter Dutton's not that perturbed. Gents, thank you. Catch you both next week.